When I go grocery shopping, I always start by making a list of the items I need. This helps me stay organized and ensures that I don't forget anything. Once I have my list ready, I grab a shopping cart and head inside the store. I walk through the aisles one by one, carefully searching for each item on my list. It can be fun to explore different sections of the store and discover new products. I try to compare prices and check expiration dates before selecting the items I want to purchase. Once I have everything I need, I proceed to the checkout counter to pay for my groceries. After paying, I pack my items into bags and head back home feeling satisfied and prepared for the week ahead. Grocery shopping is an important and practical task that helps me maintain a well-stocked pantry and kitchen.
When I cook dinner, I start by gathering all the ingredients I need. I check to make sure I have everything, like vegetables, meat, and spices. Then, I follow a recipe to know exactly what to do. The recipe tells me how much of each ingredient to use and the steps to follow. I chop the vegetables and prepare the meat as the recipe instructs. Next, I heat up a pan on the stove or preheat the oven. I cook the vegetables and meat according to the recipe. Sometimes, I need to stir the food or flip it over to make sure it cooks evenly. Once everything is cooked, I take it off the heat or out of the oven. I let it cool down a bit and then it's time to enjoy the meal that I prepared.
After finishing a meal, I start washing the dishes. I fill the sink with soapy water and begin to scrub the dishes clean. I make sure to clean every dish thoroughly, removing all the food residue. Once I finish scrubbing, I rinse off the soap under running water. Next, I place the dishes on a drying rack to air dry. This helps to prevent any water spots or streaks from forming. As I continue washing, I organize the dishes in the sink to maximize space and efficiently clean each dish. After completing the washing and rinsing process, I wipe down the sink and countertop to ensure everything is clean.
When it's time to do my laundry, I follow a simple process. First, I sort my clothes by color. I separate the whites, darks, and colors into different piles. Once I have everything sorted, I load the clothes into the washing machine. I make sure not to overload it, so that the clothes can move around freely. Next, I add detergent to the designated slot in the machine. I use the recommended amount based on the size of the load. Finally, I press the start button and let the machine do its work. I usually choose the appropriate wash cycle based on the type of clothes I'm washing. Once the cycle is complete, I remove the clothes from the washing machine and either hang them up to dry or put them in the dryer. And that's how I successfully do my laundry.
I put a leash on my dog and open the front door. We start our walk around the neighborhood. My dog sniffs and explores everything we come across. We pass by houses, trees, and other dogs. Sometimes we see people jogging or riding bikes. My dog gets excited when he sees other animals and wants to go closer to them. I have to hold onto his leash tightly so he doesn't run away. We walk for about 30 minutes before heading back home. My dog is tired and happy after our walk.
I walk into the bank and join the line, patiently waiting for my turn. When it's finally my turn, I take out a deposit slip from the provided stack and start filling it out. I write my account number, the date, and the amount of money I want to deposit. Once I have completed the form, I hand it over to the teller behind the counter. The teller checks the information on the slip, counting the money I gave them. They then process my transaction, entering the details into the computer system. After a few minutes, the teller returns the slip to me along with a receipt confirming the deposit. I thank the teller and leave the counter, feeling satisfied with my successful bank visit.
When I want to exercise, I always put on my workout clothes. I like to wear comfortable clothes that allow me to move easily. Once I am dressed, I go to the gym. At the gym, there are many different machines and classes to choose from. I usually pick a machine or class that I enjoy. If I choose a machine, I make sure to read the instructions before I start. The instructions tell me how to use the machine correctly and safely. I follow along with the instructions and start my workout. If I choose a class, I listen carefully to the instructor's directions. They show us different exercises and movements that we need to do. I try my best to follow along and do the exercises correctly. Exercising at the gym helps me stay active and healthy.
When it's time to pay my bills, I gather them together. I then open my computer and go to my online banking account. I log in using my username and password. Once I am logged in, I look for the option to pay bills. I click on it and a page opens up with spaces to input the payment details. I type in the amount that I need to pay for each bill. After entering the amount, I double-check to make sure it is correct. Next, I input the account number or reference number for each bill. Once I have entered all the payment details, I click on the Confirm button. A message appears on the screen confirming that the transactions have been completed. Finally, I log out of my online banking account.
When it comes to watering plants, I have a simple routine. I either grab a watering can or a hose, depending on the size of the plants and their location. If I have indoor plants, I bring them outside or water them right where they are. If I have plants in my garden, I walk over to the garden with my chosen watering tool. I make sure to water each plant thoroughly, ensuring that the soil is evenly moistened. I pay attention to the specific needs of each plant, as some may require more water than others. I take my time and ensure that each plant receives the amount of water it needs to thrive.
I needed a haircut, so I called the salon to make an appointment. They gave me a time that worked for me, so I marked it on my calendar. On the day of my appointment, I arrived at the salon on time. I walked in and told the receptionist my name and she checked me in. Then, she showed me to a chair and asked me to wait. After a few minutes, a hairdresser came over to me and asked what I wanted. I explained the hairstyle I wanted and showed her a picture as reference. She nodded and asked me to sit in the chair. She started cutting my hair, making sure to follow my instructions. As she worked, she asked me if I was happy with the length and style. I nodded and she continued cutting. After she finished, she handed me a mirror so I could see the back of my head. I said it looked great and thanked her for the haircut. I paid the receptionist for the service and left the salon feeling satisfied with my new haircut.
When planning a trip, I begin by researching different destinations. I look for places that have interesting attractions and activities to offer. Once I have chosen a destination, I book my transportation. This could include buying tickets for a flight or arranging for a train or bus ride. After that, I book accommodation. I search for hotels or guest houses that are in a convenient location and fit my budget. Once all the logistics are sorted, I start creating an itinerary for my trip. I list down all the activities and attractions I want to visit. This helps me make the most of my time and ensures that I don't miss out on anything. Finally, I am ready to embark on my trip with a well-planned itinerary in hand.
Changing a light bulb is a simple process that I can easily do myself. First, I make sure to turn off the power switch for the room where the light bulb needs to be changed. Then, I gently twist the old light bulb counterclockwise until it comes loose from the socket. Carefully, I lower the old light bulb down and set it aside. Next, I take the new light bulb and align the base with the socket. I firmly twist the new light bulb clockwise until it is securely in place. Finally, I turn the power switch back on, and the room immediately lights up with the new bulb. Changing a light bulb is a quick and straightforward task that anyone can do to brighten up a room.
Taking out the trash is a regular household chore that I do. First, I gather all the trash from different parts of the house, the kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom. Then, I tie it all up neatly in a garbage bag to keep it from spilling. Once the bag is securely tied, I take it outside to the designated bin for collection. This bin is usually located near the curb, where the garbage truck can easily pick it up. I make sure to place the bag inside the bin properly so that it doesn't fall out or create a mess. It's important to do this regularly to keep the house clean and hygienic.
When it's time for a meal, I take the responsibility of setting the table. First, I gather the necessary items like plates, cutlery, and glasses. I place the plates in the center of each setting, making sure they are aligned with the edge of the table. Next, I position the fork on the left side of the plate and the knife on the right side, with the blade facing inward. I place the spoon to the right of the knife. Lastly, I set the glass slightly above the knife. I make sure that each person has the same number of each item and that they are evenly spaced. This way, everyone at the table has what they need for a meal.
When I want to take care of my teeth, I start by putting toothpaste on my toothbrush. I make sure to use the right amount, not too much or too little. Then, I brush my teeth in small circular motions. I make sure to reach all the surfaces of my teeth, including the front, back, and sides. I also brush my tongue to remove any bacteria. After brushing for about 2 minutes, I rinse my mouth with water. This helps to remove the toothpaste and any remaining food particles. Finally, I spit out the water and admire my clean and fresh teeth. Brushing my teeth is an important part of my daily routine to maintain good oral hygiene.
Working on a puzzle is a fun and engaging activity. When I start working on a puzzle, I lay out all the puzzle pieces in front of me. They come in different shapes and colors, so I take my time to study each piece. I carefully examine the edges and corners to find the matching ones. As I connect the pieces together, the picture starts to take shape. It requires concentration and patience to find the right place for each piece. It feels rewarding when I successfully fit a piece in its correct spot. Slowly but surely, the puzzle starts to come together, and I can see the complete picture forming. It's a satisfying feeling to complete the puzzle and see the final result.
Going for a walk is a simple and enjoyable activity. To start, I put on my comfortable shoes. Then, I step outside my home and begin my leisurely stroll. I usually choose to walk around my neighborhood or go to a nearby park. As I walk, I observe my surroundings and take in the sights and sounds. Sometimes, I encounter friendly neighbors or other walkers along the way. Walking also allows me to get some exercise and clear my mind. It's a refreshing break from my daily routine and helps me relax. After a pleasant walk, I return home feeling rejuvenated and ready to continue with my day.
I usually check the mail in the afternoon. To check the mail, I unlock the mailbox using a key. Then, I open the mailbox door and retrieve any letters or packages inside. I bring the mail inside the house and put it on the kitchen table. After that, I sit down and start opening the envelopes to read the letters. Sometimes, there are bills or advertisements in the mail. Other times, I receive letters from friends or family. If there are any packages, I carefully open them to see what's inside. It's always exciting to receive packages. Checking the mail is a routine task that I do every day to stay informed and connected with others.
In my garden, I prepare a bed or pot for planting seeds. I make sure the soil is fertile and clear any weeds or debris. I decide which seeds to plant and carefully follow the instructions on the seed packet. I dig small holes or furrows in the soil at the appropriate depth and place the seeds inside. I cover them with soil and gently pat it down. After planting, I water the seeds regularly to keep the soil moist. I make sure not to overwater or underwater them. I wait patiently for the seeds to germinate and sprout.
When it comes to balancing my checkbook, I like to gather all of my bank statements and receipts together. I carefully go through each statement and subtract all of my expenses from my current balance. It's important to make sure that the numbers match up to ensure accurate financial records. By doing this, I can keep track of my spending and make sure there are no errors or discrepancies in my account. Balancing my checkbook helps me stay organized and in control of my finances.
I begin by plugging in the iron and making sure it is turned on. Then, I adjust the temperature setting on the iron according to the type of fabric I am going to iron. Once the iron has heated up to the desired temperature, I carefully pick up the garment and lay it flat on the ironing board. Using the hot iron, I start smoothing out the wrinkles on the fabric. I move the iron in a back and forth motion, applying gentle pressure to remove any creases. It is important to be cautious while ironing, especially around buttons or delicate areas of the garment. I continue ironing until the entire garment is wrinkle-free. Once I am done, I unplug the iron and let it cool down before putting it away. Ironing clothes helps me to maintain a neat and polished appearance.
Going to the post office is a simple yet important task. First, I collect my package or letter that I want to send. Then, I go to the counter and wait in line. When it's my turn, I give the postal worker all the necessary information, such as the recipient's address and my own return address. After that, I pay for the postage based on the size and weight of my package or letter. Once I've paid, I hand over my item to the postal worker, who will then send it off to its destination.
For making a sandwich, I start by choosing the type of bread that I want. There are many options like white bread, whole wheat bread, or even baguettes. After selecting the bread, I decide on the fillings. This could be ham, cheese, lettuce, tomatoes, or any other ingredients that I enjoy. I carefully layer the fillings on top of the bread, making sure to distribute them evenly. Once the fillings are in place, I cut the sandwich into halves or quarters. This makes it easier to eat and handle. Overall, making a sandwich is a simple process of selecting bread, choosing fillings, layering them together, and cutting it for convenient consumption.
I start by sorting through my clothes, shoes, and accessories. I separate them into different categories such as tops, bottoms, dresses, jackets, and shoes. This helps me see what I have and makes it easier to find specific items later on. Once everything is sorted, I group similar items together. For example, I hang all my tops on one side of the closet and put my dresses on another rack. I also arrange my shoes neatly on a shelf. This way, I can easily find the shoes I want to wear without having to search through a messy pile. Overall, organizing my closet helps me keep track of my belongings and makes getting dressed in the morning much simpler.
When I need to buy a gift for someone, I always consider what they are interested in. I want to find something that will make them happy and show that I care. I usually go to a store or look online to see what options are available. I take my time to browse through different items and read reviews to make sure I choose something good. Once I find a suitable gift, I purchase it and think about how happy the person will be when they receive it. I usually buy gifts for special occasions like birthdays or holidays.
Attending a wedding can be a memorable experience. I make sure to dress in appropriate attire for the occasion. After that, I arrive at the venue where the wedding is taking place. Once there, I witness the ceremony, which is a special moment where two individuals declare their love and commitment to each other. It is a joyous occasion filled with happiness and love. After the ceremony, I join in the celebration with the other guests, congratulating the newlyweds and wishing them a lifetime of happiness together.
Repairing a bicycle can be a straightforward process. To begin, I gather all the necessary tools such as a wrench, screwdriver, and tire pump. Next, I carefully inspect the bike to identify any issues. For example, I might notice that the brakes are not working properly or that the gears are not shifting smoothly. Once the problem is identified, I make the necessary adjustments or replace parts as needed. This might involve tightening loose bolts or replacing a worn-out brake pad. After I have made the necessary repairs, I test the bike's functionality by taking it for a test ride. I check that the brakes are responsive, the gears shift smoothly, and the tires are properly inflated. If everything is working correctly, I consider the repair job complete.
When I want to give a room in my house a fresh look, I start by covering the floor and furniture with protective sheets. Then, I choose a color for the walls that I think will make the room feel brighter and more inviting. Before applying the paint, I make sure to apply a primer to the walls first. This helps the paint adhere better and gives a smoother finish. Depending on the size of the room, I either use a paintbrush or roller to apply the paint. I like using a brush for smaller areas and detail work, while a roller is great for larger, flat surfaces. After applying a couple of coats and allowing it to dry, I remove the protective sheets and admire the fresh, new look of the room. Painting a room can be a fun and rewarding project that can completely transform the space.
Taking a photograph is simple and enjoyable. All I need is a camera or phone to capture a special moment. First, I grab the camera and make sure it is ready to use. Then, I focus on choosing a subject to photograph. It could be a beautiful landscape, a precious pet, or even a group of friends. Once I have my subject in mind, I frame it within the viewfinder, ensuring that it fits nicely within the picture. If needed, I adjust the camera settings to get the desired effect. For example, I can change the brightness or zoom in for a closer shot. Finally, when everything is set, I gently press the shutter button to take the photograph. It's amazing how I can freeze that moment in time and create a lasting memory.
I open the weather app on my phone and enter my current location. I can see the forecast for the day or even the entire week. It tells me if it will be sunny, rainy, or cloudy, and also gives me the temperature for each day. Sometimes it even shows me the chance of rain or snow. This helps me to know what to wear and how to plan my activities for the day. If it's going to rain, I make sure to bring an umbrella, and if it's going to be hot, I pack sunscreen. It's really convenient to have this information at my fingertips, and it helps me to be prepared for the weather.
To mop the floor, I first fill a bucket with water and floor cleaner. Then, I immerse the mop into the bucket, making sure it gets saturated with the cleaning solution. After that, I wring out the excess water from the mop, so it's damp but not dripping wet. Once the mop is ready, I start gliding it across the floor, moving in a back and forth motion to cover the entire surface. As I mop, I make sure to apply some pressure to remove any stubborn dirt or stains. After finishing the mopping process, I let the floor air dry, and I'm left with a clean and shiny surface.
I went to the dentist today. When I arrived at the dental clinic, I went to the reception desk and signed in. After that, I sat down in the waiting area and waited for my turn. When it was my turn, the dentist called my name and I followed them into the examination room. The dentist examined my teeth and asked me some questions about my oral hygiene routine. They also took some X-rays of my teeth to check for any problems. After the examination, the dentist discussed the results with me and recommended a treatment plan. I made an appointment for the treatment and left the clinic. Overall, it was a routine visit to the dentist.
Making a bed is a simple task that involves straightening out the sheets and blankets, fluffing the pillows, and tucking in the edges. This creates a neat and inviting bed for anyone who wants to relax or sleep. It is important to ensure that the sheets are flat and smooth, with no wrinkles or creases. The blankets should be spread evenly and tucked neatly under the mattress to prevent them from slipping off during the night. Fluffing the pillows helps to make them comfortable and supportive, while tucking in the edges of the sheets and blankets gives the bed a clean and tidy appearance. By following these steps, I am able to make a bed that is both comfortable and visually appealing.
To start a fire, I first collect some firewood and kindling. I look for dry sticks and small branches, making sure they are not too big or wet. Then, I arrange them in a suitable formation, stacking the larger pieces of wood at the bottom and placing the kindling on top. Next, I strike a match or use a lighter to ignite the kindling. I hold the flame to the kindling until it catches fire and begins to burn. Carefully, I blow on the flames to encourage them to grow. Once the fire is going strong, I add more firewood to keep it burning. It feels great to create a warm and cozy fire to enjoy.
When I want to bake cookies, I gather all the ingredients I need. First, I find flour, sugar, butter, eggs, and vanilla extract. Then, I mix all these ingredients together in a big bowl. I make sure everything is well combined and there are no lumps. Next, I form small balls of dough and place them on a tray, leaving some space between each cookie. I preheat the oven and then put the tray inside. I set the timer for the recommended time and wait for the cookies to bake. When the timer goes off, I check if the cookies are golden brown. If they are, I take them out of the oven and let them cool down. Finally, I can enjoy freshly baked cookies.
When I am going on a trip, I need to pack my suitcase. First, I choose the clothes and items that I want to take with me. I make sure to pick things that are appropriate for the weather and the activities I will be doing. Then, I fold the clothes neatly so that they will fit nicely in the suitcase. I also roll up any small items like socks or underwear to save space. Once everything is folded and rolled, I carefully place them inside the suitcase. I try to organize them in a way that makes sense, so that I can easily find what I need when I arrive at my destination. Finally, I zip up the suitcase to keep everything secure and ready for transportation. Packing my suitcase is an important part of preparing for my trip.
When I want to stay organized and productive, I grab a pen and paper. I write down tasks or reminders that I need to do. Writing them down helps me remember things and stay on track. Sometimes I have a lot of tasks, so I prioritize them. I decide which tasks are most important and do those first. This helps me manage my time better and not feel overwhelmed. Having a to-do list also gives me a sense of accomplishment when I can check off tasks as I complete them. It feels good to see progress and know that I am getting things done. Creating a to-do list is a simple but effective way for me to stay organized and stay on top of my responsibilities.
I put on a swimsuit and head to the pool or beach. I walk towards the water and slowly enter it. I feel the coolness of the water against my skin. I start to float on my back and enjoy the peaceful sensation of being in the water. I decide to swim towards the designated area and start moving my arms and legs. I feel the water resistance as I propel myself forward. It feels refreshing and invigorating. I continue swimming for a while, enjoying the freedom and weightlessness in the water. After a good swim, I slowly make my way back to the shore and exit the water.
I walk through the library doors and enter a quiet and peaceful environment. The shelves are filled with rows and rows of books, neatly organized by genre and topic. I stroll through the aisles, scanning the spines of the books, looking for something that catches my interest. There are books on history, science, fiction, and more. I carefully select the ones I want to borrow and make my way to the checkout desk. The librarian greets me with a friendly smile and scans each book, placing a due date slip inside. I thank the librarian and head home with my new reading materials. Over the next few weeks, I enjoy reading the books and gaining new knowledge. When the due date approaches, I gather the books and return them to the library. The librarian checks them in and removes the due date slips. I bid farewell to the library, grateful for the opportunity to access such a vast collection of books.
Caring for a houseplant is important to ensure its healthy growth. I water the plant regularly to keep the soil moist but not overly saturated. This helps to prevent the plant from drying out. I also make sure to place the plant in an area with appropriate sunlight. Some plants prefer direct sunlight, while others thrive in indirect or partial sunlight. I pay attention to the plant's specific needs in terms of light exposure. Additionally, I trim the plant as needed to remove dead or damaged leaves. This helps to promote new growth and maintain the plant's overall appearance. If the plant outgrows its current pot, I repot it into a larger one to give its roots more space to grow. Taking these steps ensures that my houseplant remains healthy and beautiful.
When I want to go for a run, I make sure to put on my running shoes and workout attire. I step outside and begin jogging at a steady pace. I can choose to run for a specific distance or for a set amount of time. I enjoy the feeling of being outside and moving my body. Running helps me stay fit and healthy. It is a great way to get some fresh air and clear my mind. I like to challenge myself by increasing my distance or speed over time. Running is a simple and convenient exercise that I can do anytime and anywhere. After finishing my run, I feel accomplished and energized.
Making a phone call is a common task in my daily life. Whenever I need to call someone, I pick up my phone and dial their number. I patiently wait for the recipient to answer the call. If it's someone I haven't spoken to before, I introduce myself by saying my name and briefly explaining why I'm calling. Once the person picks up, we engage in a conversation, exchanging information or discussing a particular topic. It's important to speak clearly and politely to ensure effective communication. If I'm just relaying information, I give a concise explanation and wait for their response. Making phone calls can be a quick and convenient way to communicate, especially when face-to-face meetings are not possible.
Today, I noticed a leak in my bathroom faucet. It was dripping water constantly, making a small puddle on the sink. I knew I had to fix it as soon as possible. I went to the utility room and found the valve to turn off the water supply. Once the water was off, I grabbed a screwdriver and carefully removed the handle of the faucet. Underneath, I saw 2 worn-out washers that needed to be replaced. I found new washers in my toolbox and installed them in place of the old ones. With the new washers in place, I reassembled the faucet handle and turned on the water supply again. To my relief, there was no more leak. I'm glad I was able to fix it myself without needing to call a plumber.
My closet was in complete disarray, with clothes and accessories scattered everywhere. I knew it was time to tackle the mess and get organized. I started by emptying the entire closet and separating my belongings into categories. I sorted my clothes, shoes, and accessories into neat piles. Next, I sorted through each pile and got rid of anything I no longer needed or wanted. It felt liberating to declutter and create more space. With the remaining items, I folded my clothes neatly and hung the appropriate ones on hangers. I placed my shoes back in an orderly manner on a shoe rack and stored my accessories in labeled bins. Now, when I need to find something, I can easily locate it without any hassle. My closet is now a tidy and functional space, thanks to the effort I put into organizing it.
I wanted to freshen up my bedroom, so I decided to paint it. I covered the floor and furniture with drop cloths to protect them from paint spills. I also taped off the edges of the walls to make sure that I only painted where I wanted to. Before applying the paint, I first applied a primer to the walls to ensure that the paint would adhere properly. Then, I used a roller and brush to apply the paint to the walls in my chosen color. It took some time and effort, but the end result was worth it. My bedroom now looks brand new and I am really happy with how it turned out.
I recently made the decision to start a garden. Before I could begin planting, I needed to prepare the soil. I spent some time removing all the weeds and rocks from the area where I wanted my garden to be. Once the soil was cleared, I began digging small holes to plant my chosen seeds or seedlings. After placing each one in its designated hole, I made sure to water them thoroughly so that they would have a good start. To help retain moisture and prevent weed growth, I also added a layer of mulch around the plants. Now, all I have to do is wait patiently for my garden to grow.
I was feeling hungry for lunch, so I decided to make a sandwich. First, I gathered all the ingredients I needed. I took out 2 slices of bread, a jar of mayo, some lettuce, a tomato, and a block of cheese. I opened the jar of mayo and spread it evenly on 1 slice of bread. Then, I added a few pieces of lettuce on top. Next, I sliced the tomato and carefully placed it on the lettuce. I also cut a few slices of cheese and added them on top of the tomato. Finally, I took the other slice of bread and placed it on top, completing my sandwich. I used a knife to cut the sandwich in half, so it would be easier to eat. I sat down and enjoyed my delicious lunch.
I recently purchased a brand new bookshelf, and I was excited to put it together. The instructions were included in the package, so I carefully read them before starting. I also made sure to use the tools that were provided, such as a screwdriver and a hammer. The bookshelf came in several pieces, but I followed the step-by-step instructions and connected them together. Once I finished assembling the bookshelf, I carefully moved it to the spot in my room where I wanted it to be. Finally, I started organizing my books on the shelves. It was a satisfying feeling to see my new bookshelf complete and filled with all my favorite books. It looks fantastic in my room and adds a nice touch to the overall decor.
One day, I noticed that a button had fallen off my shirt, so I decided to fix it myself. I grabbed a needle and some thread and carefully threaded the needle. Next, I brought the needle up through the fabric where the button had been and then pushed it back down through one of the buttonholes. I repeated this process a few times to make sure the button was securely attached. Once I was satisfied with the button's placement, I tied a knot in the thread and cut off the excess. Now, my shirt looks complete again with the buttons securely in place.
I recently needed to install a shower curtain in my bathroom. First, I measured the length of the space where the curtain would hang. Then, I attached curtain rings to the top of the curtain. I made sure to evenly space the rings along the edge. After that, I inserted the rings onto the curtain rod, making sure they were securely in place. Finally, I hung the rod on the hooks that were already installed in the bathroom. It was important to make sure the rod was level and secure. Now, I have privacy in the shower and a nice-looking curtain in my bathroom.
I noticed a flat tire on my bicycle, so I needed to repair it. First, I removed the damaged tire from the bicycle. Then, I carefully inspected it to locate the puncture. Once I found the puncture, I used a patch kit to fix it. I spread glue on the puncture area and placed a patch on top. After waiting for some time, I pressed the patch firmly to ensure it stuck well. Next, I reinstalled the tire onto the bicycle, making sure it was aligned properly with the rim. Finally, I inflated the tire to the correct pressure using a pump and tested it by spinning the wheel. The tire was fixed successfully, and now my bicycle is ready to ride again.
I recently had to sew a hem in my pants. To start, I turned the pants inside out so that the raw edge was exposed. Then, I folded the fabric up to the desired length, making sure it was even all the way around. To keep the folded hem in place while I sewed, I used pins to secure it. Next, I threaded a needle with thread that matched the color of my pants. I started sewing at one end of the fold, making sure to go through both layers of fabric. I sewed a straight stitch all along the folded edge, keeping my stitches close together. After reaching the end, I tied a knot to secure the thread. Once I turned my pants right side out again, I was happy to see that the hem was neat and even. Now, my pants fit perfectly and I can wear them with confidence.
I had a flat tire on my car, so I needed to change it. First, I located the spare tire, jack, and lug wrench in the trunk. Then, I used the lug wrench to loosen the lug nuts on the flat tire. After that, I placed the jack under the car and started raising it. Once the car was high enough, I removed the flat tire and carefully placed it aside. Then, I took the spare tire and positioned it onto the car's hub. I secured the spare tire by tightening the lug nuts with the lug wrench. Finally, I lowered the car back down by slowly lowering the jack. Now, my car is ready to drive again with the new tire.
I decided to make myself a cup of tea. I took out a kettle and filled it with water. I put the kettle on the stove and turned it on. As the water heated up, I took a cup and placed a tea bag in it. Once the water in the kettle started boiling, I carefully poured it into the cup over the tea bag. I let it sit for a few minutes to let the tea steep and release its flavors. After that, I took out the tea bag and added some sugar to sweeten it. I also poured a splash of milk to make it creamy. Finally, my cup of tea was ready to be enjoyed. It felt warm and comforting as I took my first sip.
I used to have all my digital photos scattered everywhere. They were on my computer, my phone, and even on some memory cards. It was really hard to find the pictures I wanted to see because I couldn't remember where they were saved. So, I decided to organize them. I created different folders on my computer for different categories, like family, friends, vacations, and special events. Then, I transferred all my photos to their respective folders. It took some time, but it was worth it. I also made sure to delete any duplicates or unwanted pictures to save space. Now, whenever I want to look at my digital memories, I can easily find them in the right folder. It feels great to have my photos organized, and it's much easier to enjoy them now.
I wanted to express my gratitude, so I decided to write a thank you card. I began by addressing the recipient with a warm greeting. In the body of the card, I expressed my sincere appreciation for their kindness or help. I made sure to mention specific reasons why I was thankful, such as their support or the impact they had on me. To conclude my message, I signed my name, adding a personal touch. Once the card was complete, I placed it in an envelope and mailed it to the recipient. Through this simple gesture, I successfully conveyed my gratitude.
My bathroom was in need of a good cleaning, so I gathered my cleaning supplies and started the task. First, I scrubbed the toilet thoroughly using a toilet brush and cleaner. I made sure to clean all areas, including the inside and outside of the bowl. Next, I wiped down the sink and countertops with a disinfectant spray, removing any dirt and grime. I also cleaned the mirrors using glass cleaner, ensuring they were sparkling clean. Finally, I mopped the floor with a mop and floor cleaner, making sure to cover all areas. After finishing, my bathroom feels fresh and clean, ready for use.
I wanted to change the layout of my living room, so I rearranged the furniture. First, I measured the space to make sure everything would fit. Then, I started moving the existing furniture around. It was heavy and took some effort to push and pull it into the right places. After a few tries, I finally got it positioned in the desired configuration. It was a bit challenging to figure out the best arrangement, but I kept trying until I was satisfied. Now, with the new layout, my living room looks completely different. It feels more spacious and it gives the room a fresh look.
Today, I needed to go grocery shopping, so I decided to make a list of the items I needed. Firstly, I checked my pantry and refrigerator to see what I already had on hand. This helped me avoid buying duplicate items. Then, I thought about the meals I plan to make for the week and made sure to include all the necessary ingredients on my list. Additionally, I took note of any household items that I was running low on, such as cleaning supplies or toilet paper. By carefully preparing my list, I ensured that I would have a successful shopping trip and not forget anything I needed. Now, I am ready to head to the store and cross off each item on my list.
I wanted to improve my financial situation, so I decided to make a budget. I started by identifying all the money I receive, such as my salary and any side jobs. Then, I made a list of all my expenses, including rent, groceries, transportation, and entertainment. I divided these expenses into categories, like housing, food, transportation, and leisure. Next, I allocated a specific amount of money to each category based on what I could comfortably afford. Now, I can easily keep track of my spending and make sure I don't overspend in any area. This has helped me save money and feel more in control of my finances.
I had a dirty car, so I decided to clean it. I gathered cleaning supplies such as soap, water, and a vacuum cleaner. First, I washed the exterior of the car using the soapy water and a sponge. I made sure to scrub all the dirt and grime off the surface. Next, I moved to the interior of the car and used the vacuum cleaner to clean the seats and floor mats. I also used a damp cloth to wipe down the surfaces and remove any dust. Finally, I cleaned the windows both inside and outside using a glass cleaner and a microfiber cloth. After all the cleaning, my car now looks clean and great.
I felt like having a refreshing snack, so I decided to make a fruit salad. I started by washing the fruits that I wanted to include, like apples, grapes, and strawberries. After washing them, I took a knife and cut them into small, bite-sized pieces. Once all the fruits were cut, I gently mixed them together in a bowl. To enhance the flavor and add a touch of freshness, I squeezed some lemon juice over the fruit mixture. The fruit salad looked vibrant and colorful, ready to be enjoyed. It was not only tasty but also a healthy snack option.
I was going on a trip, so I needed to pack my belongings. I made a checklist of essential items and determined the appropriate clothing for the destination and weather. I gathered clothes, toiletries, and personal items. I packed my clothes neatly, folded them, and placed them in my suitcase. I also packed my toothbrush, toothpaste, shampoo, and other toiletries in a separate bag. I made sure to pack enough underwear and socks for the duration of my trip. I also packed my electronic devices such as my phone and charger, along with any necessary adapters. Lastly, I packed my travel documents such as my passport and boarding pass in a secure pouch. I organized everything in a suitcase, ensuring I had everything I needed. Now I'm ready for my trip.
I decided to treat my skin to some pampering, so I made a homemade face mask. I gathered ingredients like honey, yogurt, and oatmeal, all of which are natural. I mixed these ingredients together, creating a paste. Next, I applied the mask to my face, making sure to cover all areas evenly. I allowed the mask to sit on my face for a specific amount of time, giving it a chance to work its magic. Once the time was up, I rinsed off the mask with warm water. As I washed the mask away, I could already feel the refreshing and rejuvenating effects on my skin. My face felt smooth and looked radiant. Making a homemade face mask was a simple and effective way to give my skin the care it deserves.
I woke up wanting a cup of coffee, so I decided to make a pot. First, I measured the right amount of coffee grounds and carefully poured them into the coffee filter. Then, I filled the coffee maker with water up to the marked line. After making sure everything was in place, I pressed the brew button and waited patiently for the coffee to be ready. As the coffee brewed, the inviting aroma filled the air, making me even more excited. Finally, I heard the sound indicating that the brewing was complete. I grabbed my favorite mug, placed it under the dispenser, and poured myself a cup of hot, delicious coffee. The taste was exactly what I needed to start my day on the right foot. The rich flavor and aroma awakened my senses and gave me the energy I needed. Making a pot of coffee was a simple task, but the satisfaction it brought me was immeasurable.
I was at home when I heard a beeping sound coming from my smoke detector. This beeping usually means that the battery is low. I remembered that I needed to change the battery, so I went to find the smoke detector. It was located on the ceiling in the hallway. I carefully removed the cover of the smoke detector to access the battery compartment. I noticed that the battery inside was old and needed to be replaced. I took out the old battery and replaced it with a new one, making sure to put it in the correct orientation. Once the new battery was in place, I put the cover back on the smoke detector. To make sure everything was working properly, I pressed the test button on the smoke detector. I was relieved to hear that the beeping had stopped and the smoke detector was functioning as it should.
My refrigerator was a mess with lots of old and expired food items, so I decided to clean it out. First, I took out everything from the refrigerator, including fruits, vegetables, and leftovers. I checked the labels and threw away anything that had expired. Then, I emptied the condiments and sauces from the door compartments. Next, I took out the shelves and drawers and washed them with a mild cleaner. I also wiped down the inside walls of the refrigerator. After everything was clean and dry, I put back the shelves and drawers in their proper places. Finally, I organized the food items by category, placing fruits and vegetables in the crisper drawer and condiments on the door compartments. Now my refrigerator looks clean and organized, and I feel good knowing that I have gotten rid of the expired food items.
I wanted to hang a picture frame on the wall. I gathered a hammer, a screwdriver, a measuring tape, a pencil, and a nail or screw. First, I measured the desired height for the picture frame. Then, I took the measuring tape and marked the wall with a pencil to indicate where the picture frame would go. Next, I used the screwdriver or hammer to drill a hole for the screw or insert the nail into the wall. Finally, I hung the picture frame securely on the wall. Now, the picture is displayed beautifully for everyone to see.
The remote control stopped working, so I needed to change the batteries. I looked for the battery compartment and found it on the back of the remote. It had a small latch that I needed to slide to open it. Once opened, I saw the old batteries inside. I carefully removed them and placed them aside. I then took the new batteries and inserted them into the compartment, making sure to align the positive and negative ends correctly. After inserting the batteries, I closed the compartment by sliding the latch back into place. I picked up the remote and pressed a button to test it. To my relief, it started working perfectly again.
I was determined to have a nutritious lunch, so I made sure to pack a healthy meal. For the main course, I chose either grilled chicken or tofu as a source of protein. To complement it, I included whole grains like brown rice or quinoa. To make the meal even more wholesome, I added fresh fruits or vegetables, such as an apple or a carrot. Lastly, I decided to treat myself with a small indulgence, like a piece of dark chocolate or a homemade granola bar. With all these components, I had a well-rounded and flavorful lunch that I couldn't wait to enjoy.
My garage was a mess and it needed to be cleaned and organized. I decided to take on the task myself. I began by sorting all of the items in the garage into different categories. I made piles for tools, sports equipment, and holiday decorations. I also took the opportunity to get rid of things that I no longer needed or used. Once everything was sorted, I created specific spaces for each category. I made sure to arrange everything neatly, so that it would be easy to find what I needed in the future. Now, my garage is clean and functional, and I feel satisfied with my hard work.
Today, I had to change the air filter in my home's HVAC system. I found the air filter in a small compartment near the furnace. The old filter was dirty and filled with dust, so I carefully removed it and disposed of it. Then, I took out a new filter from its packaging. I made sure to check the size and type of filter that my HVAC system required. I easily inserted the new filter into the same compartment, making sure to align it properly. I closed the compartment securely and turned on the HVAC system. Changing the air filter is important because it helps keep the air in my home clean and prevents the system from getting clogged with dust and debris. It also helps the HVAC system function efficiently, saving energy and prolonging its lifespan.
I recently had a mishap with my favorite shirt and accidentally spilled something on it. Determined to remove the stain, I decided to pre-treat it with a stain remover. I applied the stain remover directly onto the affected area and let it sit for a few minutes. After the recommended time had passed, I laundered the shirt as instructed on the label. I followed the washing instructions carefully, making sure to select the appropriate settings on the washing machine. Once the laundry cycle was complete, I eagerly checked the shirt and was thrilled to see that the stain was completely gone. My shirt now looks as good as new and I can wear it with confidence once again.
I recently realized that the files on my computer were all over the place, which made it difficult to find what I needed. So, I decided to take some time to organize them properly. I started by creating separate folders for different types of files, such as documents, photos, and videos. Then, I went through my computer and moved each file into its corresponding folder. Along the way, I got rid of any duplicate files and unnecessary documents that I no longer needed. After this task, my digital files are now neatly organized and it is much easier for me to find what I'm looking for.
I recently decided to create a dedicated space for work in my home, so I set up a home office. I carefully chose a suitable location in my house where I could focus and be productive. Once I found the perfect spot, I cleared out the area to make room for my office essentials. I then assembled a desk and chair, ensuring that they were comfortable and ergonomically designed. To keep myself organized, I gathered all the necessary supplies such as a computer, stationery, and storage solutions. Now, my home office is a productive and comfortable workspace where I can efficiently complete my tasks.
On weekends, I enjoy baking cookies. I follow a recipe to make them. First, I gather the ingredients for the cookies. Then, I mix all the ingredients together in a bowl. After that, I shape the dough into small balls. Once the dough is shaped, I place the balls on a baking sheet. Next, I preheat the oven and then put the baking sheet inside. I set the timer for the recommended baking time. While the cookies are baking, I can smell the sweet aroma filling the kitchen. Finally, when the timer goes off, I take the cookies out of the oven. They are a beautiful golden brown color. I let the cookies cool down before I can enjoy them.
When I make a sandwich, I choose the bread and filling that I like. First, I select my favorite bread, which can be white or whole wheat. Then, I decide on the filling. Some of my favorite options are turkey, ham, or chicken. Once I have chosen the bread and filling, I start layering the ingredients. I place lettuce, tomato slices, and cheese on top of the filling. Next, I spread some sauce, such as mayonnaise or mustard, to add flavor. After that, I put the other slice of bread on top to complete the sandwich. Finally, I can enjoy my delicious creation.
Doing laundry is part of my weekly routine. I separate my clothes into different piles based on their colors and fabric types. Next, I add detergent to the washing machine along with the appropriate amount of water. I set the machine to the desired cycle, such as delicate or regular, and press the start button. While the machine is running, I use this time to do other chores or relax. Once the cycle is finished, I remove the clothes and inspect them for any stains or spots that may require additional treatment. After that, I either hang the clothes on a clothesline or fold them neatly and place them in my dresser. Doing laundry not only keeps my clothes clean and fresh, but it also helps to maintain their quality and prolong their lifespan.
I wanted to add some color to my garden, so I decided to plant flowers. First, I dug small holes in the ground where I wanted the flowers to go. Then I carefully placed the flower plants into the holes, making sure to be gentle with them. After that, I covered the plants with soil, patting it down to make sure they were secure. To help my flowers grow properly, I made sure to water them regularly. I knew that watering them was important because it helped them to stay healthy and strong. I was excited to see how my garden would look once the flowers started to bloom.
I enjoy setting the table for dinner. First, I place the plates in the center of each person's spot. Then, I carefully arrange the glasses next to the plates. After that, I make sure to place the cutlery on the sides of the plates, with the forks on the left and the knives and spoons on the right. I also like to add napkins on top of each plate, neatly folded or arranged in a creative way. Lastly, I put a centerpiece in the middle of the table to make it look more inviting.
My closet was messy, so I decided to organize it. I first sorted my clothes by type such as shirts, pants, and dresses. Then, I further organized them by color, putting all the white shirts together, the blue pants in one section, and so on. Next, I neatly folded each item and arranged them in specific sections within the closet. For example, I designated one section for work clothes and another for casual attire. This way, I can easily find what I need without having to search through a jumble of clothes.
I enjoy making healthy smoothies for breakfast. First, I choose my favorite fruits such as strawberries, bananas, and blueberries. Then, I gather all the ingredients I need, the fruits, some yogurt or milk, and a blender. Next, I wash the fruits and peel the bananas. After that, I put the fruits and yogurt or milk into the blender. I make sure to add enough liquid to blend everything smoothly. Once everything is in the blender, I cover it and turn it on. I let it blend for a few minutes until it becomes a creamy and smooth mixture. Finally, I pour the smoothie into a glass and enjoy a refreshing and nutritious drink to start my day.
I packed my suitcase for a weekend getaway. I made a list of essential items, folded and arranged my clothes, added toiletries and other necessary things, and zipped it all up. I included outfits for each day, as well as pajamas and underwear. I also packed my toiletries such as toothpaste, toothbrush, shampoo, and soap. Additionally, I made sure to bring my phone charger, camera, and headphones for entertainment. After folding and arranging everything neatly, I closed the suitcase and secured it with the zipper. I double-checked to make sure I had everything before leaving for my trip.
I had a busy day ahead of me, with many tasks that needed to be completed. To stay organized and ensure that I didn't forget anything, I decided to make a to-do list. I took a piece of paper and wrote down all the tasks that I needed to do. There were quite a few, so I had to prioritize them. I started with the most important task and worked my way down the list. As I completed each task, I crossed it off the list. This helped me stay focused and motivated, knowing that I was making progress. By the end of the day, I had completed all the tasks on my to-do list, and I felt accomplished and satisfied with my productivity.
I recently cleaned my bathroom from top to bottom. First, I scrubbed the bathtub using a brush and cleaner to remove any dirt and grime. Next, I cleaned the sink, making sure to wipe down the faucet and handles. Then, I moved on to the toilet, using a toilet brush and disinfectant to clean both the inside and outside of the bowl. After that, I wiped down the countertops, removing any spills or stains. I also cleaned the mirrors, making sure they were streak-free and shiny. Finally, I mopped the floor to keep it clean and hygienic. I am satisfied with the cleanliness of my bathroom after this thorough cleaning.
After dinner, I washed the dishes. I filled the sink with hot, soapy water, used a sponge to scrub the plates and utensils, rinsed them with clean water, and let them air dry. I made sure to wash both sides of the plates and all the utensils, including forks, spoons, and knives. I also washed the glasses and mugs, being careful not to break them. After everything was clean, I turned off the water and let the dishes air dry on the rack. It felt good to have a clean and tidy kitchen after finishing the task.
The faucet in my kitchen was leaking, so I decided to fix it myself. First, I located the water supply valve under the sink and turned it off to prevent any water from flowing while I worked on the faucet. Then, I carefully disassembled the faucet using a wrench and screwdriver, making sure to remember the order of the parts. I noticed that a rubber gasket inside the faucet was worn out, causing the leak. I went to the hardware store and bought a new gasket, along with some plumber's tape for extra sealing. Back home, I installed the new gasket, making sure it was positioned correctly. I used the plumber's tape to seal the connections between the faucet parts securely. After reassembling the faucet, I turned on the water supply again and tested it to ensure that it had stopped leaking. I was relieved to see that the faucet was working perfectly fine without any leaks.
I recently went camping and decided to set up a tent. First, I unfolded the tent and laid it out flat on the ground. Then, I carefully assembled the poles by connecting them together. Once the poles were connected, I inserted them into the designated sleeves on the tent and secured them in place using the provided clips or straps. After ensuring that the poles were firmly in position, I attached the rainfly to the top of the tent to protect it from rain and other weather elements. To ensure stability, I placed stakes in the ground and attached them to the tent using the built-in loops or hooks. This ensured that my tent was securely fastened and resistant to any potential wind or movement. Overall, setting up the tent was a straightforward process that involved unfolding, assembling, securing, and adding additional attachments for weather protection.
I went grocery shopping to stock up on essentials. I grabbed a shopping cart and started walking through the aisles. I looked at the signs above each section to find the items I needed. I picked up fruits and vegetables from the produce section, and then went to the bakery to get fresh bread. I also got some meat and dairy products from the refrigerated section. I checked my list to make sure I had everything I needed. When I was done, I headed to the cash register to pay. The cashier scanned each item and put them in bags. I paid with cash and received my change. I thanked the cashier and left the store with my groceries.
I realized that my computer files were in a disorganized state, so I made the decision to organize them. To do this, I started by creating folders for different categories. I categorized my files based on their type, such as documents, pictures, and videos. Then, I moved each file into its respective folder. This helped me to easily locate specific files when needed. Additionally, I also took the opportunity to delete any unnecessary files that were taking up space on my computer. By organizing and decluttering my digital files, I now have a much more efficient system in place.
I wanted to talk to a friend, so I decided to make a phone call. I picked up my phone and dialed their number. I patiently waited for them to answer. When they finally picked up, I greeted them with a friendly hello. We started our conversation by asking each other how we were doing and what we have been up to lately. We talked about our jobs, hobbies, and families. It was nice to catch up and share our experiences. We also made plans to meet up in the near future. After talking for a while, we said our goodbyes and ended the call. I felt happy to have spoken to my friend and enjoyed our conversation.
I wanted to contribute to the environment, so I planted a tree. I found a suitable spot in my backyard and started preparing the ground. First, I dug a hole with a shovel, making sure it was deep enough for the tree's roots to fit comfortably. Next, I gently placed the young tree inside the hole, making sure it stood upright. Then, I carefully covered the roots with soil, ensuring that they were well covered and supported. Finally, I watered the tree generously, making sure the soil was moist all around. I hope that by planting this tree, I am doing my part to help the environment and promote its growth.
I wanted to make pasta for dinner, so I went to the kitchen and filled a pot with water. I turned on the stove and waited for the water to boil. Once the water was boiling, I added some salt to enhance the flavor of the pasta. I then carefully poured the pasta into the pot and stirred it gently with a spoon. While the pasta was cooking, I prepared the sauce by mixing tomatoes, garlic, and herbs in a separate pan. After about 10 minutes, I checked if the pasta was done by taking a piece and tasting it. It was perfectly cooked, so I turned off the stove and carefully drained the pasta using a colander. Finally, I mixed the cooked pasta with the delicious sauce and sat down to enjoy my meal. It was a satisfying and tasty dinner.
I needed to see the doctor, so I scheduled an appointment. I called the clinic and spoke to a receptionist. I gave the receptionist my personal information such as my name and phone number. The receptionist asked me about the reason for my visit and I explained that I needed to see a doctor. The receptionist then asked me for my preferred date and time for the appointment. I checked my calendar and chose a convenient time for the visit. The receptionist confirmed the appointment and gave me the date, time, and the name of the doctor I would be seeing. I thanked the receptionist and hung up the phone, feeling relieved that the appointment was scheduled.
I went to the beach to have some fun and decided to build a sandcastle. I found a spot near the shore where the sand was wet and easier to shape. I started gathering the wet sand and began shaping it into towers and walls. It was so satisfying to watch the sand come together and form the structure of the castle. Once I was happy with the shape, I started decorating it with seashells and sticks that I found on the beach. The seashells gave the castle a beautiful and natural look, while the sticks added a unique touch. Building the sandcastle was a fun and creative activity that allowed my imagination to run wild.
I went to the gym today for a workout session. I made sure to bring a towel and a water bottle with me. When I arrived, I saw many different exercise machines and weights. I decided to start with the treadmill to warm up. After that, I moved on to the weight machines to work on my upper body strength. I did exercises like bench presses and bicep curls. Then, I went to the leg press machine and did some squats to work on my lower body. Lastly, I used the dumbbells to do some shoulder presses and tricep extensions. It was important for me to focus on different muscle groups to get a complete workout.
I needed groceries but didn't have time to go to the store. So, I visited an online grocery website and browsed through various items. I selected the ones I needed and added them to my virtual shopping cart. It was convenient to have all the products categorized and organized on the website. Once I had everything I needed, I proceeded to schedule a delivery. I chose the date and time that worked best for me and entered my address for the delivery to my doorstep. The website provided me with a confirmation of my order and the delivery details. It was a hassle-free and time-saving experience to shop for groceries online.
I didn't feel like cooking, so I decided to order takeout for dinner. I opened a food delivery app on my phone and started browsing through the different restaurant options. After looking at the menus and reading some reviews, I found a restaurant that caught my attention. I selected my favorite dishes, including a delicious stir-fry and some dumplings. I proceeded to add them to my cart and chose the option for delivery. I provided my address and payment information, and then placed the order. I eagerly awaited the arrival of my food, and after a short while, the delivery person arrived at my doorstep with a bag full of delicious-smelling food. I thanked them and took the food inside to enjoy my hassle-free dinner.
I decided to improve my financial situation by creating a budget. First, I wrote down all of my income sources, such as my salary and any side jobs. Then, I made a list of all my expenses, including rent, groceries, and transportation. To make it easier to understand, I organized these expenses into different categories, like housing, food, and transportation. After that, I calculated how much money I could save each month by subtracting my expenses from my income. This helped me establish a clear picture of my financial situation and gave me the motivation to find ways to save more money.
A button fell off my shirt, so I decided to sew it back on. Firstly, I looked for a needle and thread. After finding them, I proceeded to thread the needle by passing the thread through the small eye. Once the needle was threaded, I positioned the button on the shirt where it had fallen off. To secure the button, I started by placing the needle through one of the button's holes and then through the fabric of the shirt. To make sure the button stayed in place, I repeated this process multiple times. After I finished stitching, I tied a secure knot at the back of the fabric to ensure the button would not come loose again.
I enjoy solving puzzles as a brain exercise. Today, I picked a puzzle and started analyzing the pieces. It was a challenging puzzle with various shapes and colors. I carefully examined each piece and organized them based on their edges and patterns. Slowly, I began fitting the pieces together, trying different combinations. Some pieces didn't fit at first, but I remained patient and kept trying. It was a satisfying feeling when I found matching pieces and connected them. Gradually, the puzzle started taking shape, and I could see the image forming. Finally, after some time, I managed to fit all the pieces together, and the puzzle was complete. It was a rewarding experience to see the final result and know that I had solved the puzzle.
I woke up in the morning feeling a bit groggy, so I decided to take a refreshing shower. I stepped into the bathroom and turned on the water. I adjusted the temperature, making sure it was warm but not too hot. I grabbed my bar of soap and lathered it up, creating a thick, foamy layer. I started scrubbing my body, starting from my head and working my way down. I made sure to clean every part of my body, paying extra attention to areas that tend to get dirty easily, like my armpits and feet. Once I felt like I had scrubbed enough, I stepped back under the water and rinsed off all the soap, making sure not to leave any residue behind. The water felt so soothing as it washed away the soap and refreshed my whole body. It was a great way to wake up and start my day feeling clean and energized.
My car had a problem with one of its tires, so I decided to fix it myself. First, I searched for the spare tire and the jack in the trunk of my car. Then, I placed the jack in the correct spot to lift up the car. Gently, I turned the handle and watched as the car lifted off the ground. Once it was high enough, I carefully removed the flat tire and set it aside. Next, I grabbed the spare tire and placed it onto the wheel hub. I made sure the bolts were lined up properly and tightened them using a wrench. Finally, I slowly turned the handle of the jack to lower the car back down to the ground. With my car now equipped with a new tire, I was ready to continue my journey.
I love watching birds, so I decided to set up a bird feeder in my backyard. First, I bought a bird feeder from the store. It was a rectangular-shaped container with small holes for the birds to access the food. Next, I filled the bird feeder with birdseed. I poured the seeds carefully into the container, making sure not to spill any. After that, I found a sturdy tree branch where I could hang the bird feeder. I tied a string around the branch and attached the bird feeder to it. I made sure it was secure and wouldn't fall down. Finally, I stepped back and waited patiently for the birds to come. I was excited to see them visit the bird feeder and enjoy the food I had provided for them.
I love being creative, and one of my favorite ways to express myself is through drawing. Recently, I decided to create a picture, so I found a piece of paper and some pencils. I thought carefully about what I wanted to draw and then began sketching the lines and details. It took some time and concentration, but I enjoyed every moment of it. Once I finished, I stepped back and admired my creation. It was amazing to see how my drawing came to life on the paper. Drawing is such a wonderful way to bring my imagination to life.
I recently decided to give my old picture frame a fresh new look. To start off, I gathered all the necessary supplies, including a paintbrush and some paint. I made sure to choose a color that I liked and that would complement the photo I planned to display. Once I had everything ready, I began by carefully applying a coat of paint to the frame, making sure to cover the old color completely. After each coat, I allowed the paint to dry before moving on to the next one. I repeated this process until I achieved the desired look for my frame. Finally, after the paint had fully dried, I proudly placed my favorite photo in the newly painted frame and put it on display for everyone to see.
I decided to try making a paper boat. I found a piece of paper and followed the instructions I found online. First, I folded the paper in half lengthwise. Then, I unfolded it and folded the top corners to the center crease, creating a triangle shape at the top. Next, I folded the bottom edge up to meet the top edge, creating a smaller rectangle shape. I then opened up the bottom flap and pushed the sides inwards to form a diamond shape. After that, I brought the bottom edges together and folded them up, tucking them into the diamond shape. Lastly, I gently floated the paper boat in a basin of water. It bobbed along the surface, making me smile. It was a simple and fun activity to do.
Last night, I decided to spend my evening building a puzzle. I found a sturdy table and spread out all the puzzle pieces on it. The puzzle pieces were all different colors and shapes, so I decided to sort them before starting. I grouped the pieces with the same color together and also separated them based on their shapes. Once I had everything sorted, I slowly connected the pieces together. It was a bit challenging at first, but as I continued, the whole picture began to emerge. It was exciting to see the image come together piece by piece, and I felt a sense of accomplishment when I completed the puzzle.
I decided to take my bicycle for a ride in the park. Before I started, I put on a helmet to protect my head. Then, I hopped on the bike and began pedaling along the paths. The weather was nice, and I enjoyed feeling the wind in my hair as I rode. The park was beautiful, with trees, flowers, and a peaceful atmosphere. I saw other people walking and jogging along the paths as well. It was nice to be surrounded by nature and enjoy the fresh air. As I continued riding, I noticed some ducks swimming in a pond nearby. It was a lovely sight to see. After a while, I decided to take a break and sat on a bench to rest for a bit. I drank some water and enjoyed the peaceful sounds of nature. Riding my bike in the park was a great way to exercise and relax at the same time. I felt energized and happy after my ride, and I look forward to going on more bike rides in the future.
I recently planned a party for my friends. First, I picked a date that worked for everyone and a venue that was spacious enough to accommodate everyone. Then, I sent out invitations to all my friends, providing them with the necessary details. Next, I spent some time carefully planning the decorations, making sure to create a fun and festive atmosphere. I also had to plan the menu, taking into consideration everyone's dietary preferences and restrictions. Finally, I made sure everything was ready on the day of the party, ensuring the venue was set up and all the food and drinks were prepared. I wanted to make sure it was a memorable celebration for everyone.
I decided to pamper myself with a homemade face mask. I wanted to use natural ingredients to nourish my skin. So, I mixed honey and avocado together to create a mask. Once the mask was ready, I carefully applied it to my face, making sure to cover my entire face evenly. After that, I sat back and relaxed while the mask did its work. It felt soothing and refreshing on my skin. I left the mask on for about 15 minutes, allowing the natural ingredients to penetrate and nourish my skin. Finally, I washed off the mask with warm water, revealing a healthier and more radiant complexion.
I have discovered some effective ways to save money on my energy bills. Firstly, I have started using LED light bulbs instead of traditional incandescent ones. LED bulbs are energy efficient and have a longer lifespan, which means I don't have to replace them as often. Additionally, I have become mindful of turning off lights when they are not needed, whether it's leaving a room or going to bed. By doing so, I am reducing unnecessary electricity usage and ultimately saving money. Lastly, I have adopted the habit of unplugging electronics, such as chargers and appliances, when they are not in use. Even when these devices are turned off, they still consume a small amount of electricity if they remain plugged in. By unplugging them, I am minimizing phantom energy usage and cutting down on my energy expenses.
I recently learned how to make my own homemade cleaners. I discovered that using ingredients like vinegar, baking soda, and lemon juice can be just as effective as store-bought cleaners. Not only are these homemade cleaners cheaper, but they are also more environmentally friendly. It's a great way to save money and reduce waste. I found that mixing vinegar and water creates a great all-purpose cleaner for surfaces like countertops and floors. Baking soda is perfect for scrubbing away tough stains, and lemon juice can be used to add a fresh scent to my cleaning solutions. Overall, learning how to make my own homemade cleaners has been a practical and cost-effective solution for keeping my home clean and tidy.
When I started taking care of plants, I found out some helpful tips for beginners. One important thing I learned is that plants need enough sunlight to grow well. So, I make sure to place my plants in a spot where they can get plenty of sunlight throughout the day. Another tip I follow is watering my plants regularly, but not too much. Overwatering can be harmful to plants, so I always check the soil before watering and only water them when it feels dry. Lastly, using well-draining soil is crucial for the health of my plants. It helps to prevent water from sitting at the bottom of the pot and causing root rot. These tips have helped me make sure my plants stay healthy and thrive.
When it comes to washing dishes by hand, I follow a simple 3-step process. First, I scrape off any excess food from the plates and bowls. Then, I fill up the sink with hot, soapy water. I make sure to use enough soap to create suds. Next, I immerse each dish in the soapy water and scrub it with a sponge or brush, paying extra attention to any stubborn stains. Once each dish is clean, I rinse them thoroughly under running water to remove all the soap residue. Finally, I place the dishes on a drying rack or a clean towel and let them air dry completely before putting them away.
I recently came across some helpful tips for organizing a small space. One suggestion is to use storage boxes to keep items neatly organized and prevent clutter. Another tip is to make use of vertical space by installing shelves or hanging organizers on the walls. This can free up valuable floor space and create more storage options. Lastly, it is recommended to declutter regularly by getting rid of items that are no longer needed or used. This helps to create a more streamlined and organized living area. Overall, these tips can be very beneficial in maximizing the space and creating a more efficient and organized environment.
When it comes to packing a suitcase efficiently, I have found that rolling my clothes instead of folding them works best. This allows me to maximize the space in my suitcase and also helps prevent wrinkles. In addition to rolling my clothes, I have started using packing cubes. These small organizing bags help keep my belongings neat and organized throughout my trip. I have also learned that placing heavier items at the bottom of my suitcase helps distribute the weight more evenly, making it easier to maneuver and carry. Overall, these tips have made packing for my trips much more efficient and stress-free.
I had a problem with a leaky faucet and I found some simple steps to fix it. First, I turned off the water supply to the faucet by closing the shut-off valve. Then, I unscrewed the handle of the faucet using a screwdriver and removed the faulty washer. I replaced it with a new one, making sure it fit properly. After that, I put the handle back on and turned on the water supply to test for any remaining leaks. If there were still leaks, I needed to repeat the process and ensure everything was properly tightened. Finally, I checked again to make sure the faucet was no longer leaking.
I recently learned some basic sewing skills as a beginner. First, I learned how to thread a needle. I carefully inserted the thread through the small eye of the needle, making sure it was securely in place. Then, I practiced sewing a straight stitch on a piece of fabric. I moved the needle up and down, creating a neat and even line of stitches. Finally, I learned how to sew on buttons. I carefully positioned the button on the fabric and used the needle and thread to sew it in place. These basic sewing skills have given me a good foundation to start exploring more advanced techniques.
I learned how to cook rice perfectly by using the right ratio of water to rice, bringing it to a boil, and letting it simmer until all the water is absorbed. To start, I measure out 1 cup of rice and rinse it under cold water until the water runs clear. Then, I pour the rinsed rice into a pot and add 2 cups of water. I place the pot on the stove over high heat and bring it to a boil. Once it's boiling, I reduce the heat to low, cover the pot with a lid, and let it simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes. During this time, I resist the temptation to uncover the pot and check on the rice. I know it's done when all the water is absorbed and the rice is tender and fluffy. Now, I can enjoy my perfectly cooked rice with my favorite dishes.
In my search for knowledge, I recently discovered a list of indispensable tools that should be a part of every basic home toolkit. One of these tools is a trusty hammer, which can be used for various tasks such as driving nails into walls or assembling furniture. Another tool that caught my attention is a screwdriver set, which comes in handy when tightening or loosening screws of different sizes. Pliers are also essential, as they provide a strong grip and can be used for pulling, twisting, and cutting wires or other small objects. Lastly, a measuring tape is a must-have tool for precise measurements when it comes to hanging pictures or determining the length of a curtain rod. These tools are practical and versatile, making them important additions to any home toolbox.
When I started working from home, I found some useful tips to stay productive. One thing I did was create a dedicated workspace in my house. I set up a desk and chair in a quiet corner where I could focus on my work. This helped me separate my work life from my home life. Another tip I followed was setting a schedule. I established specific working hours that I stuck to every day. Having a routine made it easier for me to stay on track and complete my tasks. Lastly, I made sure to minimize distractions. I turned off notifications on my phone and closed any unrelated tabs on my computer. By doing this, I was able to stay focused and be more productive.
I learned how to change a flat tire by following these steps. First, I made sure to park my car on a flat surface to ensure stability. Then, I used a car jack to lift the vehicle off the ground, making sure to locate the proper point to position the jack safely. Once the car was elevated, I carefully removed the flat tire using a lug wrench, being mindful of the sequence in which the lug nuts should be loosened. Next, I grabbed the spare tire and aligned it with the wheel bolts, securing it in place by tightening the lug nuts. Finally, I gently lowered the car back down using the jack and double-checked that all the lug nuts were properly tightened. It was important to remember to have the flat tire repaired or replaced as soon as possible.
I recently discovered some interesting do-it-yourself home decor ideas. One idea is to create wall art using materials that can be recycled, like old newspapers or magazines. Another idea is to repurpose old furniture by giving it a fresh coat of paint or changing its function in a creative way. Lastly, there are personalized photo frames that can be made using various materials and designs to showcase cherished memories. These DIY projects are a great way to add a personal touch to your home and showcase your creativity.
I have recently acquired some knowledge on basic car maintenance for beginners. I have learned how to check the tire pressure, change the oil, and replace the windshield wiper blades. These tasks are essential for keeping the car in good condition and ensuring a smooth driving experience. By regularly checking the tire pressure, I can maintain optimal tire performance and increase fuel efficiency. Changing the oil on a regular basis helps to keep the engine clean and running smoothly. Additionally, replacing the windshield wiper blades allows for clear visibility during rainy weather. Overall, these maintenance tasks are important for the overall performance and longevity of the car.
I recently learned some valuable advice on how to start a vegetable garden. One important tip is to find a sunny location for your garden. This is because most vegetables require at least 6 hours of sunlight per day to grow properly. Another tip involves preparing the soil before planting. It is recommended to remove any weeds, rocks, or debris from the area and loosen the soil with a garden fork. Adding organic matter like compost or manure can also help improve the soil quality. Lastly, it is crucial to select the right vegetables for your climate. Different vegetables have different temperature and humidity requirements, so it's important to choose vegetables that are suitable for your area's climate. By following these tips, you can set yourself up for a successful vegetable garden.
I recently faced a problem with a clogged sink drain. I decided to try a few methods to unclog it. First, I used a plunger. I placed the plunger over the drain and pressed it up and down several times. This created suction and helped to dislodge the blockage. However, if the plunger didn't work, I tried pouring a mixture of baking soda and vinegar down the drain. I let it sit for a while, and then flushed it with hot water. This combination helped to dissolve the clog. Lastly, if none of these methods worked, I removed and cleaned the trap. I used a wrench to loosen the nuts and removed the trap. Then, I cleaned it thoroughly with water and a brush before reattaching it. These methods were effective in unclogging the sink drain and saved me from calling a professional plumber.
In my journey of learning how to cook, I discovered some essential kitchen utensils that beginners like me should have. One of them is a chef's knife, which is a versatile tool for chopping, slicing, and dicing ingredients. It helps me save time and ensures that my food is cut evenly. Another crucial utensil I learned about is a cutting board. It provides a stable surface for me to work on and prevents any damage to my countertops. Additionally, I found out that measuring cups are essential for precise measurements when following recipes. They come in different sizes and help me ensure that I add the right amount of ingredients. Lastly, I learned the importance of having mixing bowls. These bowls are perfect for combining ingredients and mixing them thoroughly. They make my cooking process more organized and efficient. Overall, these essential kitchen utensils have been invaluable in my journey as a beginner cook.
When it comes to creating a budget, I have learned some helpful tips that have made a big difference for me. One of the most important things is tracking my expenses. This means keeping track of every single purchase I make, whether it's a cup of coffee or a new pair of shoes. By doing this, I can see exactly where my money is going and identify any areas where I may be overspending. Another tip is to set financial goals. This could be saving for a vacation, paying off debt, or buying a new car. Having clear goals in mind helps to keep me focused and motivated. Lastly, it's important to prioritize necessities. This means identifying the things that I truly need versus the things that are just wants. By focusing on the necessities first and cutting back on unnecessary expenses, I can better manage my money and stay within my budget.
I learned how to change a light bulb by turning off the power supply, letting the old bulb cool down, and carefully twisting in the new one. I made sure to switch off the light switch and unplugged the lamp or turned off the breaker switch in the room. Then I waited for the old light bulb to cool down, so I wouldn't burn myself. I pushed gently and twisted counterclockwise to loosen and remove the old light bulb. I made sure not to pull on the bulb, as it could break and cause injuries. Once the old bulb was out, I picked up the new light bulb, making sure it was the right size and wattage for my lamp. I aligned the base of the new bulb with the socket and turned it clockwise until it was snug. I didn't over-tighten it, as that could also cause damage. Finally, I turned on the power supply and tested the new light bulb to make sure it was working properly.
I have recently learned some practical ways to maintain good posture. One of the things I learned is the importance of sitting with a straight back. This means keeping my spine aligned and my shoulders relaxed. Another way to maintain good posture is by using an ergonomic chair. These chairs are designed to support the natural curve of the spine and provide proper lumbar support. Finally, I also learned the benefits of doing stretching exercises. Stretching helps to loosen tight muscles, improve flexibility, and reduce strain on the back and neck. By incorporating these techniques into my daily routine, I can improve my posture and prevent back pain.
I often wondered how to create a basic exercise routine that would be effective for my fitness goals. After doing some research, I discovered that incorporating activities like walking, jogging, and doing simple bodyweight exercises can be a great starting point. I realized that it's important to start with activities that I enjoy and that are accessible to me. For example, I can go for a walk in my neighborhood or jog in a nearby park. In addition to cardio activities, I learned that incorporating basic bodyweight exercises such as squats, push-ups, and planks can help strengthen my muscles. I found it helpful to create a schedule and set aside specific times each week for these exercises. By consistently following my routine, I have noticed improvements in my endurance and strength. Overall, creating a basic exercise routine has been a simple yet effective way for me to stay active and work towards my fitness goals.
When I first started baking, I learned about some essential supplies that every beginner needs. One important tool is measuring spoons, which help you accurately measure ingredients like flour and sugar. Mixing bowls are also essential, as they allow you to mix your ingredients together thoroughly. Another useful item is a whisk, which helps blend all the ingredients evenly. Lastly, baking pans are necessary for shaping and baking your creations. These supplies have made my baking journey much easier and more enjoyable.
I recently learned some useful tips for organizing digital files. One tip is to create folders and subfolders to keep similar files together. This can help me find what I need more easily. Another tip is to use descriptive file names, so I know what each file contains without having to open it. This can save me time when searching for specific documents. Lastly, it is important to regularly back up important data. This ensures that if something happens to my computer, I won't lose all of my important files. These tips have been really helpful in keeping my digital files organized and easily accessible.
I have learned some effective time management techniques that have been really helpful for me. One technique is prioritizing tasks, which means deciding which tasks are most important and need to be done first. This helps me stay focused and ensures that I am using my time efficiently. Another technique is setting realistic goals. Instead of trying to do everything at once, I break my goals into smaller, more manageable tasks. This way, I am able to accomplish more and feel motivated to keep going. Lastly, I have found that using tools such as calendars and to-do lists has been really helpful. I can write down all the tasks I need to do and set deadlines, which helps me stay organized and remember what needs to be done. Overall, these time management techniques have helped me be more productive and make the most of my time.
I learned how to make a basic salad by washing and chopping fresh vegetables, adding a dressing of choice, and tossing everything together. First, I washed different vegetables like lettuce, tomatoes, and cucumbers thoroughly. Then, I chopped them into small pieces using a sharp knife. Next, I prepared the dressing by mixing oil, vinegar, salt, and pepper in a bowl. After that, I poured the dressing over the chopped vegetables and used salad tongs to toss everything together until well mixed. Finally, I served the salad on a plate and enjoyed its refreshing taste. Making a basic salad is a simple and healthy way to incorporate fresh vegetables into my meals.
I recently came across some helpful tips for effective communication. One important tip is to practice active listening, where I pay full attention to the speaker and show that I am engaged in the conversation. Another tip is to use clear and concise language, making sure to express my thoughts and ideas in a straightforward manner. Additionally, it is important to be mindful of nonverbal cues such as body language and facial expressions, as they can also convey messages. These tips can greatly enhance my communication skills and help me better understand others.
I recently learned some basic first aid skills that can be really helpful in emergency situations. One of the skills I learned was how to perform CPR, which is a technique used to revive someone whose heart has stopped beating. I also learned how to properly treat minor cuts and burns by cleaning them and applying the appropriate dressing. Additionally, I learned how to apply a bandage or splint to help stabilize an injured limb. These skills can make a big difference in providing immediate care to someone in need.
I recently learned how to change a doorknob. It's a simple process that involves a few steps. First, I had to remove the old doorknob. I did this by unscrewing the screws that held it in place. Once the screws were removed, I carefully pulled the old doorknob out. After that, I needed to align and insert the new doorknob. I made sure that everything was properly aligned before inserting it into the hole. Finally, to secure the new doorknob in place, I used the screws that came with it. I tightened the screws until the doorknob felt secure. Changing a doorknob is a handy skill to have, and it's something that can easily be done by following these simple steps.
I have discovered some useful tips for improving my quality of sleep at night. One important tip is to establish a consistent bedtime routine. This means going to bed and waking up at the same time every day, even on weekends. It also involves engaging in relaxing activities before bed, such as reading a book or taking a warm bath. Another tip is to create a comfortable sleep environment. This includes investing in a supportive mattress and pillow, as well as ensuring the room is cool, dark, and quiet. Lastly, it is advised to avoid consuming caffeine before bedtime, as it can interfere with sleep. By following these tips, I hope to achieve a better night's sleep and wake up feeling refreshed in the mornings.
I wanted to hang a picture frame on my wall, so I decided to learn how to do it properly. I started by measuring the wall and marking the spot where I wanted to hang the frame. Then, I gathered the appropriate hanging hardware, such as nails or hooks, depending on the weight of the frame. I made sure to use a level to ensure that the frame would hang straight. Once I had everything ready, I carefully hammered the nail or installed the hook into the wall at the marked spot. Finally, I hung the picture frame on the hardware and stepped back to admire my work.
I recently learned some simple steps for cleaning windows that have been really helpful. First, I use a glass cleaner that I bought from the store. It works really well at removing dirt and fingerprints from the glass. Next, I start by wiping the windows in either vertical or horizontal strokes. I find that this helps to get rid of any streaks and leaves the glass looking clear and shiny. Finally, after I have finished cleaning, I make sure to dry the windows with a lint-free cloth. This helps to prevent any water spots or streaks from forming on the glass. Overall, these steps have made window cleaning much easier and more effective for me.
When it comes to planning a healthy meal, there are a few tips that I found helpful. First, it's important to include a variety of fruits and vegetables in my meals. These provide essential vitamins and minerals for my body. I also learned that opting for lean protein sources, like chicken or fish, is a good choice. They are lower in fat and can help with building and repairing muscles. Lastly, I discovered the importance of controlling portion sizes. By being mindful of how much I eat, I can maintain a healthy weight and avoid overeating. Overall, these tips have helped me make better choices when it comes to planning my meals.
I started by sorting my laundry into different piles. I separated the whites, colors, and delicates. Then, I loaded the first pile into the washing machine. I poured the recommended amount of detergent into the designated compartment. Next, I selected the appropriate settings based on the type of garments and their care instructions. I chose the water temperature, cycle length, and spin speed accordingly. Once everything was set, I closed the lid and pressed the start button to begin the washing cycle.
I recently learned about some important tools that are necessary for a home garden. One of these tools is a shovel, which is used for digging holes and moving soil around. Another essential tool is gardening gloves, which protect your hands from thorns and other sharp objects. I also found out about pruning shears, which are used to trim and shape plants. Lastly, a watering can is needed to provide water to the plants. These tools are essential for maintaining a healthy and flourishing garden.
I learned some useful tips for building up my personal savings. One tip is to set financial goals for myself. By having clear goals, I can have a clear direction for my savings. Another tip is to automate savings transfers. This means that I can set up automatic transfers from my checking account to my savings account. This way, I don't have to remember to transfer money each time, and it helps me stay consistent in saving. Lastly, I should avoid unnecessary expenses. By cutting back on things that I don't really need, I can save more money. These tips have been helping me build up my personal savings.
I learned how to season a cast iron pan by applying a thin layer of oil, heating it in the oven, and allowing it to cool completely. This process helps to create a non-stick surface and prevent rusting. After washing and drying the pan thoroughly, I spread a small amount of oil all over the interior and exterior surfaces. Then, I placed the pan upside down in a preheated oven at a high temperature for about an hour. It is important to put a baking sheet or aluminum foil on the lower rack to catch any drips. Once the time was up, I turned off the oven and let the pan cool in the oven. It's crucial to let it cool completely before taking it out. After seasoning, I noticed that the pan had a dark, shiny appearance. Now, the pan is ready to use for cooking delicious meals.
I learned simple ways to reduce food waste. One way is by planning my meals ahead of time. This helps me buy only the groceries I need and prevents me from buying too much food that might go to waste. Another way is by storing leftovers properly. I make sure to place them in airtight containers and store them in the refrigerator. This helps to keep the food fresh for longer and prevents it from spoiling. Lastly, I discovered the benefits of composting food scraps. Instead of throwing them away, I now collect my food scraps and use them to create nutrient-rich compost for my plants. These simple practices have helped me reduce food waste and be more mindful of my consumption.
I recently learned some useful tips for cleaning and maintaining hardwood floors. One tip is to use a microfiber mop for cleaning. This type of mop is gentle on the surface and effectively picks up dust and dirt. Another tip is to avoid using excessive water when cleaning hardwood floors. Water can seep into the wood and cause damage, so it's important to use a damp mop instead of a wet one. Lastly, I learned that applying a protective finish to hardwood floors can help keep them looking new and prevent scratches and discoloration. These tips have been really helpful in keeping my hardwood floors in great condition.
I remember when I first learned how to use public transportation. It was quite an exciting and new experience for me. The first step was to find the nearest bus stop or train station. I would either ask someone for directions or look for signs indicating the location. Once I found the stop or station, I would check the schedules to see when the buses or trains arrived and departed. This helped me plan my journey and avoid any waiting time. Next, I would purchase tickets or passes. I had to figure out how much it cost and choose the correct option for my destination. Sometimes, there were ticket machines where I could buy the tickets, while other times I had to approach a ticket counter or use a mobile app. After getting my ticket or pass, I would wait for the bus or train to arrive and board when it was my turn. It was important to follow any instructions or announcements provided by the transportation staff. Once I reached my destination, I would exit the bus or train and continue on with my day. Using public transportation has been a convenient and affordable way for me to travel around the city.
When I started learning how to sew, I discovered that there are a few essential supplies that beginners like me should have. First, I needed needles to stitch the fabric together. There are different types of needles for different purposes, so I had to choose the right ones for my project. Next, I needed thread to sew with. I learned that there are many colors and thicknesses of thread available, so I picked colors that matched my fabric and thread that was strong enough for my project. Then, I needed fabric scissors to cut my fabric accurately. These scissors are designed specifically for cutting fabric and have sharp blades that make clean cuts. Lastly, I needed a tape measure to measure the length and width of my fabric accurately. This helped me to create precise cuts and ensure that my project fit together properly. These basic sewing supplies were essential for me as a beginner and helped me get started on my sewing journey.
I learned some helpful tips for creating a functional workspace. One important tip is to make sure there is good lighting in the workspace. This can help to reduce eye strain and make it easier to see and focus on the tasks at hand. Another tip is to keep the supplies and materials organized. By having a designated place for everything, it is easier to find what you need and stay organized. Lastly, using ergonomic furniture is important for maintaining comfort and minimizing discomfort or pain while working. This could include a chair that provides good back support or a desk that is at the right height for typing and writing. Overall, these tips can help create a more efficient and comfortable workspace.
I first learned how to check the air pressure in car tires by using a tire pressure gauge. I would press the gauge onto the valve stem of the tire and ensure that it was tightly attached. Next, I would remove the valve cap from the stem and hold the gauge steady. Once I had a stable reading on the gauge, I would compare it to the recommended pressure for the tires. This allowed me to ensure that the tires were properly inflated and avoid any potential issues on the road.
I learned how to plan a balanced workout routine by including different types of exercises. First, I do cardiovascular exercises, such as running or biking, to improve my heart health and burn calories. Then, I incorporate strength training exercises, like lifting weights or using resistance bands, to build muscle and increase my overall strength. Finally, I include flexibility exercises, such as stretching or yoga, to improve my range of motion and prevent injuries. By including these 3 components in my workout routine, I am able to work out different areas of my body and achieve a well-rounded fitness routine.
I recently learned about the essential tools for basic electrical repairs. One important tool is a voltage tester, which helps identify if an electrical current is present in a wire or outlet. Another useful tool is wire strippers, which allow you to remove the insulation from wires. Electrical tape is also essential for securing and insulating electrical connections. Finally, having a pair of pliers is handy for bending, cutting, and gripping wires during repairs.